Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Srinivasa Biology Tutorials. For this session to discuss NCERT Class 12 Chapter 4 Principles of Inheritance and Variations. First to discuss about as a Mendel's law of inheritance. Let us see, have you ever wondered why elephant always gives birth only for baby elephant and not other some animals? Why? And or why mango seed form only mango plant, not any other plants? What is the reason? Because give they that given that they do or the offsprings identical to their parents, or do they show as a difference in some other characters? Have you ever wondered why the siblings are sometimes look so similar to each other, or in sometimes so is different? Because they are completely their genes. Am I right? Here the these and several related questions or deals with the scientifically and branch of biology known as, that is, genetics. The completely the branch of biology to deals with as what? Genetics. This subject deals with as an inheritance as well as the variations of the characters from the parents to offsprings. Here inheritance is in a process which is characters are passed on from parent to progeny. That heredity is the variation to degrade the degree of by which the progeny differ from their parents. So here genes are carried from the parents to offsprings. Offsprings means if simply the parent to the daughter, the genes are get transferred. That is called as an inheritance. That is called as what? Inheritance. Characters are transferred as a parent to offspring. That is in a inheritance. That is inheritance. If in case the characters are not there transferred into as any the parent to their offsprings, means there any characters are to be differ, that is called as what? It is in a completely be called as what? Variations. It has in a part of the that variations. Okay, let us the human known from as an early the 8000 to 1000 BC, that one of the causes the variations was the hidden the sexual reproduction. So when you observe as an 8000 and 1000 BC, in that time also the hidden has any what? The sexual reproduction is present. Here they exploited the variations that we are the naturally the present in the wild population of the plants and animals. So the selectively the breeds the selector for as any the organism that are the completely possessed that describe the characters. So here the ender the population will be going on. How do they are going on? With the generation to generation, the genes are get transferred here. For example, through as an artificial selection of and the domestication of their ancestral the wild cows. We have well known the Indian breeds. Example, Sahiwal cows in Punjab. So in the Sahiwal cows in Punjab, they give as a more milk. Okay, that is must have the recognize that through our the complete ancestors know about their inheritance of the characters and variations. So they are completely we are using as an artificial sexual reproduction, means parent to progeny, that characters will be they get transferred from generation to generation. Like only this Sahiwal cows they are we developed. Okay, and they had very the little idea about as in the scientific basis on this phenomenon. So the scientific based on we can easily to get find out this under the breeds. Okay, and let us here when you observe as another example also is that when you observe as an Ongol bulls, that is in the Ongol bulls also, that is the best example for as in that the artificial the sexual reproduction. Okay, this is. Let us now discuss about as what is the Mendel's law of inheritance. Mendel's law of inheritance. It was during the mid 19th century. In mid 19th century, that hardware was the made of the understanding of the inheritance. So in mid 19th century, they discussed about as in the number of inherited characters, whom the scientist was Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Mendel, the conducted as an hybridization experiments on garden pea plant. for as in a 7 years up to as in a 1856 to in a 1863. So in mid 19th century, the scientist was Gregor Mendel did as in a series of experiments on the garden pea plant in up to how many years? Completely in 7 years in 1856 to as in a 1863, and he proposed that in a law of inheritance in living organisms. He proposed a law of inheritance characters. During the Mendel's the investigation to the inheritance patterns was for the first time. It is in a statistical analysis and mathematical logics where they applied problems in biology. So first time here the statistical analysis as well as in the mathematical problems, the first time they are applied into the biology, and his experiments had is in a large sampling size which give as in a greater the credibility to data is collected. So when he using as that all characters there is large sampling size, when you observe to as in large sampling like as in a tall character and round character, like these are the complete dominant characters he selected, and also he is in confirmation of the inheritance from experiments on the successive generations of his test plants. So when the number of successive generations he did as in the same type of the complete the characters he selected. He proved that as in his result that pointed to as in the general rules inheritance rather than beginning the understand their unsubstantiated ideas. They given as any the substantiated ideas he given. Let us the Mendel ideas. When he observed as any Mendel investigation, the Mendel investigated the characters in a garden pea plant that we are the manifested to as in a two opposite springs he selected. Their complete example they given here, tall as well as in a dwarf. He selected as in two characters. One is in a the tall plant, another one is in a dwarf plant. So when you observe here, it is in a, the stem height, it is in a complete tall, and it is in a completely dwarf plant. And here yellow seed and then green seeds. When you observe to as in a the yellow and green seeds also he took as in the sampling sizes. These are allowed him to as in set up in a basic the framework of rules the governing inheritance. So these are give as in a framework to as in complete in that inheritance characters, which was in explained one by latter the scientist to as an account for the all the device the naturally the observations and the experimentally inheritance of them. So experimentally this inheritance characters he completely he was explained. Okay, and after here the Mendel conducted as in the several artificial pollinated cross. So Mendel conducted as in such as in a artificial pollination, cross pollination experiments using as in a several true breeding pure lines. See, when the Mendel to get completely did as in a number of experiments on the in a garden pea plant, right? So he did as in what self pollination as well as in a cross pollination. He used as in a true breeding in a that complete pure lines of in a pea plant. Pure lines of what? It is in a pea plant. It is completely selected. A true breeding lines of the one of that having as an undergo continuous self pollination. So it is self pollination means what? It is continuously homozygous characters. Here homozygous means what? When has the dominant or either any recessive parents are there both are same, that is called as a homozygous parents. The homozygous parents he completely the repeatedly do as a cross. So when he get as a result, the total breed is called as a true breeding characters. Here show that in the stable the traits the inheritance and the expressions from as in several generations. For the several generation he did as in that completely. These are did as in a complete different generations did as an experiment. Okay, let us. Mendel selected as in a 14 true breeding pea plant varieties, a pair which has in the similar except for as in a one character with as in a contracting traits. So Mendel is selecting selected as in the different contracting traits, means opposite characters he selected. Okay, in some of the constructing traits selected where then is smooth or wrinkled seeds. So when you observe as in a round and wrinkled seeds like, and yellow and green seeds, some has in a that completely their yellow and some has in a green characters. One is in a yellow and green like. Okay, next they are flatted or in they are fully constructed like, and yellow pods and tall or dwarf plants. These complete characters he selected as a Mendel for experiment purpose. So here they given clearly. See here. See here completely round, wrinkled, seed color that is yellow and green, flower color violet and white. It is a dominant character. It is a recessive parent and is in a pod shape. It is in a full and constructed, and pod color green and yellow. Green is the dominant, yellow is in a recessive parent. And then flower position, here the flower position also, it is in an axial part, means in the sides they get as in a flower, it is in an axial part. And in this here the terminal, the recessive parent is terminal, means terminal part. And here the finally the stem height, before only we discussed, it is a height, it is in a dwarf, it is a tall and it is in a dwarf character. So these characters Mendel was selected. Okay, they given as a name one small chart also. The constructing traits study about as a Mendel pea plant. Mendel pea plant. See, first one is in a stem height. Here in the stem height, one is in a constructing traits are there. It is one is a dominant, other one is recessive. One is in a recessive, and one is in a the dominant. Dominant, tall and dwarf. Flower color, violet and white. Flower position, axial and terminal. And pod shape, inflated and constructed. Pod color, green and yellow. Pod shape, round and wrinkled. Pod color, yellow and green. Like, he was completely selected as a Mendel experimental purpose. So this is next. See here how to the remove as a that entered when you observe as here how to the Mendel he completely remove as a flowers. See when you observe here in that flower, the first one when you get remove of the only for anther, that is called as what? Emasculation. Removal of the only stamens on the bisexual flower, that is called as what? Emasculation process. Okay, that is. See the transfer of the pollen into as a one sigma to another sigma. Here doing as a pollination. He doing is here their pollination. Let us to discuss about the inheritance of one gene. Let us inheritance of one gene. Let us take example of one such hybridization experiment carried out by Mendel, where he crossed tall and dwarf pea plants, study as an inheritance of one gene. In figure they given clearly. He was here Mendel selected as the two characters. One is a dominant character and one is the recessive character. He collected as completely seed produced as a result of this cross and the grave of them, the generations of plants in the first hybridization. This generation is also called as a filial one generation. So here Mendel is selected as the two characters, that is in a capital T, capital is in a tall character, and the small t character. These are the homozygous parents. It is in a completely homozygous parents. So in this homozygous parents to give as the gametes. These are give as what? Gametes. These are the gametes. So he here when you get as in what? First generation, that is in a filial one generation. So when the hybridization will be do, what happen? We get as in a filial one generation, that is called as in a F1 generation. See in this F1 generation is what? It is in a heterozygous. It is in a heterozygous gametes are gained. Okay, Mendel observed as that all F1 progenies plants were the tall, like one of the in a parent, non were the dwarf. He Mendel the similar observations for the other pairs of the traits. He found as an F1 always resembles the either one of the in a parents, and that the traits of the other parents was seen in that is not seen in them. So he did as in this all characters again he did as in a cross. He did as in again get as in a cross. After he get as in what? The different the similar characters he completely to get different characters he get. Next here Mendel then self-pollinated the F1 traits of the plants, and it the surprise found that in a the filial 2 generation, some as in the offsprings were there in a dwarf. the characters that was not seen in F1 generation was not expressed. So some characters, when he observed as in F1 characters in the F2 generation, he not noticed as in this all characters in the F2 generation. Okay, let us, when you observe the proportion of here the proportion of the plants, where the dwarf were 1/4, here 1/4 of the F2 generation, while 3/4 of the F2 plants were the tall. So when you observe here once clearly, see, it is a dominant character is there, it is a tall, it is also tall, it is a tall. So like as in a, they 3/4. Okay, 1/4 means here completely only one character is present, that is the 1/4 characters we notice in the tall characters in the F2 generation. Okay, and then here the tall and the dwarf traits, we are the identical to as a parental type did not show any the blending. So when you cross with as in the capital T and small t, here in these characters are not blending in the F1 generation. They are not blending in the, means they are not mixing in the F1 generation, because in these characters, when you cross here these characters into the F2 generation, here the all characters will be they get separate. Am I right? Here that in a, all offsprings were either tall or dwarf, or none were in the between the height. So these characters are not that showing any differentiation. Here the similar result we are that obtained in that other traits of that in a studied, only one of the in a parental traits was expressed on the F1 generation, while at the F2 generation the both traits were expressed on the in a proportion is 3:1. The characteristics traits that did not show as any blending in that in either F1 or F2 generation. So when you observe here, this all characters, here how many characters is there? The tall character is 3 is there. So the ratio is, that is in a 3:1. 3 is in a completely the tall character is there, only one dwarf character is there in that completely phenotypically. Okay, here what is the phenotype genotype? When phenotype, here what is the phenotype means? It is in a physical appearance, right? It is in a the physical appearance of genes, that is called as in what? Phenotype. And then genotype means what? It is a genotype means it is in a genetical appearance, it is in a completely genetical appearance of genes, that is called as what? That is in a genotype. So phenotype and then genotype. Let us, after, based on the observations, Mendel proposed as in a, here based on this observation, Mendel proposed that something was the blending, the stably they passed down the uncharged from as a parent to offspring through the innate gametes over the successive generations is called as in things as a factors. So here some parents, their gametes are over the successive generation. So generation to generation the characters will be there, complete characters will be there going on. So there depends upon what the some they are completely called as in a, some factors are there. Here those are called as what? Factors. Nowadays we are calling as what? Genes. Nowadays we are calling as what? Genes. So genes are the completely carrying as a generation to generation. Okay, the genes therefore as an until the inheritance, they are contained as an information that are in a required for the expressed as in a particular traits of the organism. So for example here they have tall character is there. How do this character will be there expressed the tall? Here the dwarf family is there. How do they express as a complete dwarf? Because in these each and every parental has in a one contracting traits as present. The traits here are called as in a factors. Nowadays we are calling as what? Genes. So these genes are completely there carry from as in generation to generation. Now genes which code for as in a pair of the contracting traits, nowadays we call as in a, that is alleles. So that contracting traits are called as what? That is completely called as in a alleles. Okay, that is they are in a slightly different from as in a same to as in other genes. So they completely different from as in a gene to gene. They are almost they can show as in different characters. Let us, if used as in the alphabetical the symbols of the genes, them as in the capital letter used as the traits of expression of the in F1 generation or F1 stage is in a the small alphabets for as in another trait. So when you observe here any characters here there like as in a capital T, it is in a tall characters. Am I right? It is used as in a capital letter. So when you take as a cross in the small t, when used as in a only for small letters, in that in a character expression they are completely character expressive purpose. If in case you are used as capital T, you are used as in a the another characters like capital T in this capital T is when you are using what happened, they make as number of confusion. So that purpose we are using that only for one is capital T, otherwise in a small t. Here, for example, this case of these characters, their height capital T used for as in a tall traits and small t used as in a dwarf traits. So capital T, small t are called as an alleles of each other. So here capital T, small t is what? They are completely called as an alleles. And hence in these plants, pair of allele height would be their capital T, capital T, capital T, small t, and small t, small t. Here they given us some characters also. Capital T means completely tall. Small t means completely dwarf. And capital T, small t is what? It is a heterozygous parent, tall and dwarf. It is completely tall and dwarf. Okay. Mendel also the proposed that in a true breeding, tall or dwarf variety of their completely allelic pairs of the genes of the height are identical, that is in a homozygous. See this, before I say that one, that is the same character is present, that is in a homozygous parents. That is completely called as what? Homozygous parents. And here capital T are called as in a genotypes. They come to the genotypes. And while they are descriptive terms tall, dwarf, they are completely called as in a phenotype. A tall and dwarf is what? Completely the phenotype. What then would be their phenotype of the plant which had in it the genotype is capital T, small t. That is called as what? That is heterozygous character. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.